All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining this afternoon's conversation with CEW and Chrome and why Chrome. So just want to again thank you for joining. We are recording this call today. If you'd like to go back and listen to any parts that you'd like to revisit or share with some of your peers. So just to get started, want to let you know lines are muted, but please feel free and comfortable to pose any questions you have real time in the chat, and we will work our best to answer those real time. So let's get started. So today's conversation is around what we call at CW our Chrome landscape call. So this is where we provide an aggregated view of all of the Chrome devices on the market, as well as what we feel are very strong or priority components to ensuring you have a sustainable Chrome ecosystem and sustainable one-to-one program in place. So with that said, I thought we'd start with who is CDW Education. So whether you see us as CDW Education or CDW Amplified for Education, know that we are one and the same. Specifically with CDW Education, as I look at Chrome devices in the Canadian landscape, we are the by volume, in the top three, the number 3 provider, K-12 nationwide. And then our CW Amplified for Education practice. If you're unfamiliar, there was a company called Amplified IT. They were the leading Google consultancy in K-12. And in March of 2021, they joined our CW Education family. So they've been around for about 13 years. They've been with our family for about 3. And if I just do a look back into what activities were performed, a couple of highlights I would call out. First off, is we are over 4,000 members strong in our North American K-12 collaborative, education collaborative. And imagine this is, if you're not part of it today, hopefully you will be soon. This is a subscription-based service where you're joining over 4,000 of your peers across North America to talk everything Chrome. So once a month, we will host a live call. It's also available on demand where we talk about the most recent updates to the Chrome Management Console and settings. As you know, or hopefully you know, in Chrome, there are Google updates that are sent out monthly. So not only do you get access to our collaborative members, both CW badged and the over 4,000 members like yourselves across North America that are running one-to-one programs in schools, you also have access to those peers offline when we're not on those calls. So I've heard very commonplace, there might be a question that someone poses on a Sunday at 2 in the afternoon, and by Sunday at 6, they've got 6 different responses from across the country on how to solve or resolve that issue. So that's our collaborative. Then when I look at our audits, we performed over 570 audits on individual school district admin consoles last year. Think of it like a home inspection. We'll come into your admin console, we look at the over 700 different policy settings that can be set, and we're going to compare that against best practice. Best practice has been established by performing over 7,000 of these audits in 3,000 domains over the past decade plus. And we're going to come back to you with a very detailed report in print. It will show every single setting you have and how we compare that against best practice. But we'll also end that engagement with a 3-hour conversation where we talk about what we found and any policy setting changes we would strongly ask that you consider making those updates. So that is what we've been up to. When I look at trends in our Canadian national market, overall, what I see is that Chrome as a percent of share is anywhere from 50 to 60% of devices deployed in any calendar quarter in any calendar year. So off to the left, you can see the most recent data that we have, and this is provided by Future Source Consulting, a global education thought leader. And you can see here the breakdown of share volume when you compare Chromebook versus notebook, which is a consolidation of Windows and some Mac, and then tablet, which is chiefly iOS from Apple, but also some Android. You can see off to the right that overall Chrome devices are chosen anywhere from the mid-50s, approaching 60% of devices quarter after quarter, year after year. And when I look at device trends overall, you can see we started in 2019 where you saw just over 30% of students were estimated to have a dedicated device. That has somewhat peaked at this point in 2022, around 46%. Today, as I look at 2024, we're hovering just below 40%. And these are some of the trend lines that Future Source sees continuing out. So if you look at your district or maybe neighboring districts and thinking, what are they doing with student compute? This is just an analysis of what's happening nationally in our Canadian market today. And why? And so if we've got almost 60% of folks choosing Chrome, why is that, right? So many of this is probably a review, but as if you're thought leaders in IT, maybe this is something you'd like to share with your partners in curriculum, in the business office, leadership. It's really that multi-layered security that has brought Chrome to be such a relevant player in K through 12, whether it be those automatic updates that happen almost in the background, several seconds long, that we can also force to happen monthly if students may be delayed taking that action. It's that verified boot where we're looking at one boot, the image of the boot that resides in the device that we know is secured, no one ever touches, and comparing that against the bootable image to make sure no bad actors have come in and inserted any malicious content. We can talk about sandboxing, where every single tab that a student or a user opens is independent from another. So if we've opened a bad page, it's not going to spread to other areas of the device, and that data encryption on the Titan chip. But I think the mic drop moment, if you're talking to your peers about why we should go Chrome, if you haven't yet, is that there are 0 reported ransomware attacks on a Chrome native device ever, period, since its inception. So, if ransomware and that is, and it's becoming more prevalent in K-12 education entities, but if that is a talking point, definitely something you want to bring to maybe you're not as IT minded folks. So today, really, we want to jump into making sure you're building that sustainable and effective one-to-one program. So we titled this Getting Started, and this might be a continuation of something you're already doing. But as we see more and more devices flood into our districts, maybe we're starting to figure out, okay, what's a better rhythm so that financially and even from an IT resource standpoint, we can manage that inflow and outflow of new to old devices. And something we talk about a lot is building that staggered refresh cycle. So we've seen many districts approach it as we're going to go make a large capital purchase one time, roll out devices to the vast majority of our users, and then we're not going to buy anything for a few years. Some are already on this track, and if you are, great. Some of this may not be the best fit for, but we find the vast majority of folks are finding that if I can stagger that refresh cycle, meaning I'm bringing in new devices for a subset of my users every single year, that's going to, soften maybe the resources needed to initially deploy those devices and get them set up for my users. But also from a financial standpoint, I can spread out those costs. So I'm not necessarily reducing costs, but if I can treat that capital expenditure as maybe an operational expenditure, where every year I've got a fixed number or pretty relatively stable number of new teachers or new students coming in every year that I need to maintain, I can say, for example, for my student population, maybe I'm rolling out new devices to every first grader, fifth grader, and ninth grader. And they carry that device with them for those 4 years, and then they retire, right? So every incoming class receives those new devices. Could be based on geography, right? So if you've got a more spread out campus with multiple buildings, maybe it's selecting some that are in the north 1 year, the south another year, and then the central a third year. So figuring out what that rhythm is for you so that you're not ripping and replacing every single device at one time. So if you've already gotten ahead of building a staggered refresh cycle, I think you're in great shape. Next comes the device selection. I feel like this is where CW accelerates and can really assist with that device selection. So often we hear from our partners that, I've talked with my stakeholders in curriculum and with my teachers and students, and I know that I need an 11-inch screen. I know that I need a convertible device. I want it to have a garaged pen. Other than that, I'm pretty open, right? That's where we come in and provide the aggregated view of all the devices on the market. First off, I'm not going to, so I should say, every year we roll out the content for the calendar year in February. And this is right after a lot of those new devices from top partners like Acer and Asus, Lenovo, HP, Dell are announced, right? They announce them in our big tech shows in January. So by February 1st, you can expect CW to have a new version of this deck. So what we're going to go through today shows for this calendar year. If you're interested in seeing what's relevant for 2025, mark your calendars and we can start having those conversations in February with you. But first off, what we do is we show an aggregated view of all of the processors available on the market. And the relevancy there is twofold. One, it directly ties to the AUP or auto update policy expiration date that Google has set for that device, which at this point is 10 years from when that device first rolled out. But also it speaks to where it falls in use case, or in Google speak, the wayfinding guide. So a small core processor, think a Celeron based or similar, would fall more for student centric in the learning anywhere category. And then we also have those big core. So, from Intel, your Core i or Core Ultra or your AMD Ryzen equivalent will fall in that advanced use or Chromebook Plus category. And those are more, while they could go to students, especially on the high school side, we would say probably mainly geared towards students, or mainly geared for teachers. A little bit deeper, we can walk you through Google's wayfinding guide at a later time, but every 6 months, Google looks at the aggregated view of all the devices on the market and charts them by that wayfinding use case, right? Whether learning anywhere, again, falling for students, advanced use or Chromebook Plus falls towards teachers, and it really is, the performance and the specs that are in that device that dictate where they fall. And we're going to talk a little bit about Chromebook Plus a bit later in the conversation here, but you can see we can make guided decisions with you around what devices are best for grades 1 through 8, 6 through 12, or teaching and staff. I think what we do at CDW really well is we take it a step further and provide all the device features that we know are most relevant to the classroom. So that we look at the AUP date from Google when that auto update policy is going to expire. We look at whether or not a device offers LTE connectivity if you need wireless access when you're off campus or off a local Wi-Fi. We talk about what Wi-Fi standard is on the device. We talk about whether or not a device is touch, whether or not it includes a stylus, a world-facing camera, a numeric keypad, especially for teachers and staff, at least whether or not an HDMI port is available. So if I look at Chromebooks for students, there's a few routes we can go. And so to orient you with this slide, and the slides that will be coming after, we chart this on the x-axis by the device manufacturer, and these are our top 5 at CDW. We chart them by the y-axis by their screen size. And if you look at the upper left, we start with the Google wayfinding category. So this is the learning anywhere. So we know small core, more student-centric. And then we chart it by form factor. In this case, this is tablet. And then also, as a reminder, we have our key device features legend at the upper right. And then you can see in the devices, we include the relevant indicators on that device. So this slide is not too busy. This is for if you're thinking about going Chrome tablet. Primarily, we see this in the primary grades. Think if I've deployed an iPad, but I'd rather consolidate my digital platforms and manage devices from one pane of glass, I want to move to a Chrome tablet to maybe displace those iPads. This is where we make those types of solutions available. So we have ASUS has their CM3001 as an example. It comes with MediaTek's Companion 520 processor. It has an AUP date of 2033, and I'm just following these icons from left to right below the ASUS choice. This comes with Wi-Fi 6 as the standard. It comes with a world-facing camera, so a secondary camera to capture video content. It is touch by form factor, really, but we call that out being a touchscreen. And last but not least, this includes a Garage Pen. Compare that against the recently launched Lenovo Duet EDU Gen 2 device. This has a MediaTek Companion 838. Its AUP date is 2034. Still comes with Wi-Fi 6 as the standard. It has a world-facing camera. It is touch by nature. It's a tablet, but this one does not include a Garage Pen, nor is it an option. So that hopefully that orients you a bit with the screen that we're talking about now. So this is tablet. Once we look at learning anywhere clamshell devices, again, these are more your student-centric clamshell notebooks. This is where the slide gets a lot busier. So imagine, again, going back to that hypothetical, I know I want an 11-inch screen. In this scenario, I want a clamshell device. I want to have an HDMI port native, and I want it to be an AUP date of 2033 or later. This is a great way of viewing all those devices, right? So if I look at that 11.6-inch screen, I'm starting left to right at Acer. I'm looking at the C736. That's going to have that Alder Lake N processor that equates to a 2033 AUP date. You can see the Wi-Fi protocol, and that T in parentheses means that this is an optional touchscreen. So if you wanted a clamshell touch, you could have that. You don't have that available option with ASUS, but with Dell, HP, and Intel, you can select the touch as an option as well, and that's indicated by the little grayed out thumbprint. So we can walk you through, and we're not going to do this today, all of the devices, but again, if you're interested in device selection, that's how we would guide that conversation, is based on first your device feature needs, and then we walk through all the options available. And we walk you through some fun little facts. So for example, if you're a user that wants to roll out accidental damage protection to all of your devices. We talk through some observations we've made with each manufacturer. So for example, if you select an Acer device and a kid were to accidentally pop off keys, right? Acer is going to cover that keyboard replacement or repair under their standard break-fix warranty. You wouldn't even need accidental damage protection in that proposed scenario. Compare that against Dell or Lenovo, where you would need an accidental damage protection coverage to cover that keyboard, that key loss on that keyboard. Then compare that against HP, where their ADP program is a little bit more restrictive, and they're going to say, wow, keys taken off a keyboard are more intentional damage, not accidental damage, and most likely would not be covered. So those are the little differences we like to point out as you make your next decision on what next device to bring into your district. So this is your Learning Anywhere clamshell, and that's the conversation we would guide. Learning Anywhere convertible, so again, small core processor, convertible form factor, so a 360 hinge that allows you not only that clamshell experience, but also that tablet experience when you fold the hinges 360 into tablet mode. And again, lots of options available from Acer, Asus, Lenovo, a lesser extent Dell and HP, which have a little bit more of a consolidated portfolio, but all great options available there. I should call out that red asterisk indicates that this device was new for 2024. Again, we rolled out this content back in February. We would have the same indicators as we roll out the 2025 content at the beginning of February. All right, so those are mainly our student-centric devices. As we talk about Chrome for teachers, and hopefully if you're not Chrome on your teachers today, you're strongly considering it. We've seen wide adoption of Chrome for students, but ironically, the majority of our teachers are still on Windows or Mac devices. And I think the benefits in the classroom are a fewfold, right? One, and I think one of the chief ones is if a student's struggling with navigating on their Chrome device, or maybe having a soft device failure, what better way to have the educator in the classroom being the frontline technical support technician if they're using a Chrome device natively day in and day out? They're just going to be better versed, better prepared to troubleshoot that device real time in the classroom versus having to send that student or that device out to a technician to take a look at. So hopefully you've all seen the news of Chromebook Plus. Chromebook Plus was announced and rolled out by Google in October of 2023. That's when the messaging came out, and that was coincidentally the first operating system version that was Chromebook Plus centric that rolled out. So just to confirm, this is a subset of Chrome devices that's receiving the same Chrome operating system version updates monthly, but 2 times a year it's going to receive a version of that operating system that's specifically Chromebook Plus, and it unlocks additional feature sets. So the first rollout of the Chromebook Plus operating system version came out in October 2023. There was another in May of 2024. Another one just launched this month in October 2024 as well. So first off, who receives Chromebook Plus operating system version updates? That is any device that meets these core hardware requirements. It has to be a big core processor. So Intel Core I or Core Ultra or the AMD Ryzen equivalent. Has to have a minimum of 8 gigs of RAM and a 128 gig SSD drive or larger. And then it has to have a full HD webcam and display. If it meets all of those requirements, the Chromebook Plus operating system version will automatically propose itself as an update when it's available. Some devices today are branded Chromebook Plus. So when you pick the device up, it physically states Chromebook Plus on the lid of the device. We're somewhat in a transitional period. Going back, I mentioned Chromebook Plus launched in October 2023. And at that point, there were already devices on the market that met Chromebook Plus hardware requirements, just didn't have the marketing on the lid. So there are some devices out there that won't say Chromebook Plus on the lid of the device, but do receive the Chromebook Plus updates. And I'll tell you that going into 2025, so far what we're hearing from our OEM partners is all Chromebook Plus devices will say Chromebook Plus on the lid of the device. Big things I think that I'd call out in the first updates that came out are you're now seeing the Google Workspace for Education activity applications. So think Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides are now available offline and on that SSD locally on the device. So if you're thinking of migrating your teachers from Windows, where they've always had access to Office applications when they're offline, when they're not online, they can now do that with Workspace for Education applications. They're also going to auto file sync in offline mode. So We know today if you're an education workspace user, you can save content you've created in sheets, slides, docs in offline mode, right? So when you're not on the internet, you can create updates and they'll auto sync with your version in the cloud once you get online. But you have to tell the document to do that. With Chromebook Plus devices, it's intelligently looking at what applications you're using most often, and it's going to automatically save, auto file sync those in offline mode. So if your teacher were to maybe leave campus, they go offline, maybe they're working remotely and don't have access to Wi-Fi, they'd be able to make those updates and it would auto file sync for them. All right, so if you're thinking, I want to move my teachers to Chrome, what devices are available in the market, we also do a view of those devices available. So again, these are advanced use or high-end Chromebooks. These are all the clamshell options available. In 2024 today, Dell and Lenovo don't have a clamshell option. HP does have one in their C640 Gen 3. Again, these devices aesthetically look very similar to Windows Ultrabooks and or MacBooks. Performance-wise, they're on par. From a weight perspective, they're very similar. So a lot of times we have to break that barrier with teachers of making them aware that no, Chromebooks aren't this 11-inch device with rubber bumpers that are only good for students. They can also look just like the device you have today, sleek, and have the performance that they require. So Acer and Asus have the most robust portfolio options. You can see for an educator that wanted a numeric keypad integrated on their keyboard, the only option today on clamshell would be Acer's Chromebook 515 or that CBE 595 on the chart. Many options. You can get touch clamshell as well if you're interested. And then we have the same options for convertible. So if I'm looking for a numeric keypad integrated on a device, the only device today that has that is Asus's CX5601, if you see at the top of Asus's chart, and that also is the only 16-inch option available. We're hoping for some more 15.6 options to be available for 2025. We'll be able to see those roadmaps soon from our top manufacturers. But tons of 14-inch options available, right? With different AUP dates. All of them are Wi-Fi 6E or later. We do see some Wi-Fi 7 devices coming available online in 2025 as well. And a lot with a pen, Garage Pen integrated for that teacher to, put the device in tablet mode. Maybe they're wirelessly casting in the classroom via a projector or an interactive flat panel. They can pull out that pen, make annotations on the application real time as they walk around the classroom, walking amongst their students, but those annotations are presenting real time to the front of the class. All right, so that's the conversation around moving teachers to Chrome, and we'd be happy to help guide you on that journey. But last but not least, let's look at some Chrome boxes. Maybe these are for lab environments. You're thinking about replacing Windows devices that are in a lab. Maybe it's for kiosks, sign-in areas, digital signage. Lots of Chrome native desktop form factor options available. These are all micro form factors, so think like 2-inch by 2-inch by 7.25-inch wide, very small form factor devices that are ideal for kiosks and digital signage, where you can use a mount to kind of put it out of the way visually and physically from the users walking by. Even in a lab environment, you can mount these to the underneath of a tabletop. You can remotely turn them on and off, so you wouldn't need to be, students would need to access those. We've got a lot of an option available from Acer, Asus, HP, 2 from Lenovo, and that's really driven by the different form factor. They're microbits even smaller than a standard Chrome box. And these can all come with those VESA mounts I mentioned. I think the fun factor is Acer includes a VESA mount to mount that Chromebox to the back of the existing monitor in the lab. Asus, HP, and Lenovo also have VESA mounts available for sale. All right, so say you take this engagement with us and you think, well, gosh, I think there's 2 to 3 devices that would be a great fit for my students, for my teachers, but I'd like to see them all in person first. Maybe there is a small event you could put together for your tech-minded students, or maybe there's a teacher in-service day coming up where you want to include the students or the teachers in selection of their next device. CDW can provide those devices for you at no charge. Let us know. We can send up to 3 devices per demo request. You get to keep those devices for 2 weeks. There'll be a FedEx label included for you to ship those devices back to us. All this at no charge. If you're interested in doing that either today or down the road when we have a roadmap conversation with you, you can request those demos by contacting CDW Education at cdw.ca, and we'd be more than happy to walk through that process and walk through the devices available in our demo pool. Another thing CW can assist with is making sure that once you've selected the right device for your users, that those devices show up ready to hand out, right? We want to free up our technical team to focus on more strategic operations versus having to provision and get devices ready to hand out to all your users. So one thing we can help with is that device provisioning as mentioned, whether that be Google's zero-touch enrollment. So if you're unfamiliar, we will remotely enter your domain settings so that when a device shows up, it knows where it's supposed to go and automatically downloads all the policy settings you've set proactively in your admin console. Or we can do our white glove service. And this is, I think, widely beneficial for a few reasons. We do that domain join, but we also do that Wi-Fi join. So as soon as the device shows up, it knows what Wi-Fi network to join versus having to have your students or teachers set up the Wi-Fi. We also are updating it to the most recent operating system version of the Chrome OS. Again, new updates every single month so that you know at the time we provision the device, it's going to show up with the current operating system version versus potentially being a few months or a few versions behind due to time on shelf or time of manufacture. We also are checking for DOAs. So nothing more frustrating than getting a device. And granted, everyone I think has a pretty low failure rate, but booting a device and it's not booting or something's physical or there's a manufacturer defect. So we're going to weed those out and not ship them to you. We'll also do asset tagging, whether that's a CDW generated asset tag here that we can provide. If you're doing white glove with us, we can do that asset tag at no charge. Say you have a custom asset tag you've already created in-house, maybe it includes RFID information, send that tag to us. We can affix that device physically, or that label physically to the device so they're ready to hand out. We'll do the asset reporting as well that shows what asset tag is tied to what device serial number and other relevant device information. We can also do laser etching. So say you'd like to etch your district's name or logo on the top of the device. We see that as acting in twofold. One, great way to market your district's compute program when students and teachers are off campus, but also it acts as a great theft deterrent. And then last but not least, we can physically apply each case to every single device so that, again, when they show up on campus, they're ready to hand out. Speaking of cases, let's talk a bit about device protection. So first off, fun fact, did you know that just by putting a case on a device can reduce your breakage by a third? So anywhere from 30 to 35%. And this is data that we receive from leading warranty providers, whether they're from the manufacturer warranty programs or even third-party warranty programs. Their underwriters have data that shows once you put a case on a device, it's going to cut your breakage by about a third. And it makes sense. So many of us get a brand new phone, and the first thing we do after unboxing it is put it in a case. But so often we're not putting these devices in a case, even though our users are using this day in, day out, 5 days a week plus. So we definitely saw device failure creep and breakage happening post-pandemic. This is one way to alleviate that at a very minimal cost. You'll just want to make sure it's an always-on or snap-on case. So often we see folks provide a sleeve or something similar where users are taking the device physically out of the case when in use, but so often we see the devices fall or cause breakage when they're being used. So an always-on case means it's always on a device, whether it's a clamshell or a convertible device, it's in a case and protected. Second, just making sure that we're selecting a warranty that's going to support the device throughout its life cycle. So a couple of key points we like to highlight. First off is selecting a warranty term that matches your device life cycle. So for example, if you plan on having a device in production for 3-4 years in the hands of students and teachers, selecting a warranty that matches that, right? It removes the unknown costs of repair and parts during the life cycle of that device. 2, we already talked about the benefits of having a case. And third, last but not least, making sure that every warranty you purchase is underwritten by a separate insurance policy. You're in great hands with manufacturers. There are some third parties out there that offer non-underwritten warranties. So you keep that in mind during selecting your next warranty. I'm not going to go into a ton of this, but these are different levels of warranty coverage that you can select. It starts at that break, fix, or manufacturer defect. And then as you go up the stack from select ADP, accidental damage protection, to full accidental damage protection, to unlimited accidental damage protection. Those are the different levels you can get in terms of how many times a device can be covered when a user, unfortunately, and a lot of times inevitably, breaks a device. All right, so we've talked about best practices of selecting a device, how to cover that device while it's in production with our users. but gosh, we know at some point it comes to time to retire all devices, right? So, and I'm sure that many of you, and we're not going to point fingers, have a spot in your district that looks like this. Maybe it's an IT closet, maybe it's your office, it's in the basement, but we've got these old devices and we're trying to figure out what to do with them next once they've been retired for users. One option is deploying Chrome OS Flex. So if you're unfamiliar, Chrome OS Flex is a no-charge version of the Chrome operating system from Google. It doesn't mirror 100% of the Chrome operating system that comes on a Chrome device natively, but it's got, let's call it 95% of the same features and functions as a Chrome native device. This Chrome OS Flex is made to deploy on older Windows and Mac devices that have essentially reached the end of their useful life. You know, if you're talking a device, a Windows or a MacBook that is, 4, 5, 6 years old, it's running kind of sluggish because that operating system is receiving updates for those 5, 6 years. We know that those operating systems are fairly resource intensive. Flash it with the Chrome OS Flex. We know that the Chrome OS is very thin and light, minimally resource needed. So that 5, 6, 7-year-old Windows or Mac device that was running pretty slow, flash with Chrome, it's going to run lightning fast again. Great way to get extended life out of those old Windows or Mac devices. Maybe it's for a lab, maybe it's for a kiosk, digital signage, maybe it's for your loaner pool. Maybe you're thinking about moving your teachers to Chrome, especially after today's conversation, but you don't necessarily want to make that initial hardware investment. We want to see if Chrome's going to work for your teachers first. This is a great way of taking those old Windows devices that are retiring from your teachers, flashing them with the Chrome operating system, and then redeploying to some more of those tech forward-thinking teachers to see how Chrome works in their classroom. So that's Chrome OS Flex. But say my devices are past that, we just need to get them off campus. This is true not just for client devices, right? This could be for other IT assets. Maybe it's printers, access points, servers, storage appliances, voice over IP phones, really anything related to IT. Know that CDW can assist with recycling those devices. So we call it our CW ITAB practice, IT standing for IT asset disposition. And some things you can expect from us is that logistics costs will be transparent. We'll provide all the data erasure and reporting as such to show what devices were successfully erased versus any that potentially maybe failed when we tried to run that erasing exercise. We'll also provide all the certificates of destruction to show that those devices were disposed of responsibly and ethically. And last but not least, there may even be a potential monetary payout at the end of this service. So sometimes not the case, but if there are some devices with residual value, know that CW, after processing, will be able to provide that check back to you. All right, next I'm going to we're going to move over to the Chrome ecosystem. And this is a bit more teacher-centric part of the conversation. We'll start with our Amplified practice. So again, we talked about some of the accolades and milestones we hit with Amplified when we started the conversation. Know again that Amplified has built this robust set on the right of robust portfolio of services and SaaS or software as a service products over the dozen years that we've been in existence. So I'm not going to talk about all of these, but I will call out a few. We talked about that audit, right? That similar to a home inspection, where we look at your admin console for all policy settings and compare that against best practice. We also have our Gopher Pack. So different plugins that go into your Chrome ecosystem to make your life easier. The one I call out is our Gopher for Chrome Premium. Think to great example, use case example. You've got a bunch of users that are sitting in one OU or organizational unit, and you'd like to migrate a bunch of users from one OU to another. In the Chrome Admin Console, you're doing that one by one. If you plug in our Gopher for Chrome tool, that's going to allow you to migrate multiple users from one OU to another with a few clicks of a button. It all plugs in the back end to Google Sheets. You can also get reporting out. So you can see every device on one pane of glass in the Google Sheet output. The last time devices have synced, how many times they've synced in the last 30 days, what operating system version is on each device, all your devices, both provisioned and deprovisioned. So great reporting tools are built into our Gopher Pack or Gopher for Chrome Premium tool as well. Little Sis is a application that allows your student information system to sync with Google Classroom. So great way of getting those two applications to talk. At the bottom, I talked about our collaborative, again, that peer-to-peer network where we can connect you with over 4,000 of your peers across North America to troubleshoot and share best practices. And we also monthly take you through all of the recent updates to the Chrome operating system. But then we also have our certifications courses where we can get you level 1 or level 2 Chrome certified at the admin level. So that is our amplified practice. We can also help you with Google Workspace for Education. So this again is Google's productivity suite where Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, to name a few, reside. There are 4 different versions. We start with Education Fundamentals, and if you're on this phone, you have Chrome, you already are a Fundamentals user, right? This is the no-charge version from Google. But if you're interested in unlocking more features from a security standpoint, and as well as just from a feature standpoint, you can go up the stack from Fundamentals to Education Standard, and that's where the paid versions begin. You can go into Teaching and Learning, and at the top is Workspace Plus, and that's where we see, honestly, the majority of our users that use a paid version of Workspace end up going based on the features and security settings that are unlocked at Plus. But the cool thing is while you can purchase this from other resellers across the nation, at CDW, you can expect us to take you through a premium onboarding engagement where we're walking you through the version of Workspace you're paying for and calling out the specific features that are available at this level versus Fundamentals. And we're also going to do periodic reviews with you when Workspace has major updates to make you aware of some of the updates that have been rolled out with that version of Workspace. So if you're looking to subscribe to Workspace either for the first time or maybe to renew, strongly consider CDW for that based on the onboarding and some of the ongoing support we provide when you subscribe to us. Now this has no charge, which is fun. This is Google Screencast. So hopefully some of you are using this today. If your teachers have moved to a Chrome device in the classroom. And this could be used by any user, students and teachers alike. Screencast is built into the Chrome operating system as long as you have version 104 or later, which I believe everyone should be at this point. Screencast allows you to create digital content on demand, right? So maybe your teacher wants to create a guided lesson plan or guide them through specific content to be posted to Drive, and students can pull down either for maybe a snow day, a sick day, maybe it's creating a lesson plan or a study guide for an upcoming test. Your educators can create this content using Screencast. They can narrate it and talk to the content they're sharing. You can show a little narrative view where the teacher's head would pop up. It doesn't have to show that. And then you post it to Drive as mentioned, and anyone access to Drive, students and teachers alike, can pull down that content and consume it on demand. So again, Screencast built into Chrome devices natively. It's not in Chrome OS Flex, but any Chrome native device, you would have access to Screencast. This is Google adjacent, but we love to talk about a solution from a company called Itopia. It's called Cloud Apps. So think of scenarios where you want to use an application. You already have a Chromebook deployed to a user, but that for some reason that application won't work on a Chromebook, right? Maybe there's not a Chrome extension that exists for that application. Maybe the application is very resource intensive, so a low-end Chromebook maybe couldn't support it. Itopia is a way of delivering applications via the browser from the cloud to that device, right? So a couple user examples, right? You're a high school, all of your students have a device that is dedicated to them from a Chrome perspective. So they're all carrying a standard issue Chromebook, but to do AutoCAD, they have to go into a Windows lab with several $1,000 Windows workstations, and it's a single purpose lab, right? Those students get access to it 2 days a week during class time. They can't work on AutoCAD on nights and weekends. And you're only keeping that Windows environment lit up for that one purpose. You can now stream AutoCAD via the cloud, via Itopia Cloud Apps to that student's standard issue Chromebook. On the teacher side, you'd like to move your teachers to Chrome, but there's that 1 or 2 application that's Windows or Mac centric. There's not a Chrome extension. Again, using Itopia to deploy that application to that Chromebook, so the teacher doesn't have to go without. So Itopia is more than happy to do demos live. Typically, they can provide proof of concept trialware, so at no charge software for you to try in your environment to see if it works. But we love Itopia Cloud Apps. I think it's been a great solution both for students and teachers alike when you have that need. All right, so we are a little bit early on time, but that just kind of wrap up the content we've talked about today. Again, something that our team does every year is compiles that checklist of, going into the next year, how do I make sure that my one-to-one program is running as efficiently as possible? And this is our checklist. So just to kind of talk through many of the things we talked about today, check your calendars. If you'd like to walk through an aggregated view of all of the devices on the market for 2025, we'll start being able to deploy that in February. So request a walkthrough of our device landscape. Making sure that we identify all of the device needs, both for teachers and students. What form factor will be needed, what key device features, a pen, a world-facing camera will be needed, and making sure we talk with our peers, right? So in IT, we may not know what curriculum wants to roll out 12 to 18 months from now. So while we may not use a convertible notebook with a pen today, curriculum might want to move that way in 12 to 18 months, maybe even just for a select population of students. Maybe it's your STEM or STEAM classes. So to determine those device needs with all the stakeholders in the district, knowing that once you get to that point where we're down to a few devices we'd like to consider, CW can help provide those demos for you to put in the hands of your IT team, your peers in curriculum or in leadership, but also in the hands of students and teachers to get frontline feedback. We can help with that warranty support, selecting the right warranty for you, the right peripherals. We didn't really talk about peripherals today, but figuring out the carts, the headsets, the cases, the mice, all those things that go alongside that device, and budgeting accordingly for those. We can take you through our Amplify portfolio and talking about some of those services and SaaS products that are Chrome specific to make sure that in IT you guys are running as efficiently and as easily as possible. Taking you through the Google Workspace lineup so you can figure out what version of Workspace is the best for you. And even to get started, we do have an online survey at no charge you can take that walks you through your current needs and as well as proposed future needs. And that survey will dictate what version of Workspace will be the best fit for your district, so you're not overpaying or underutilized for your teacher population. We can also take you through that teacher and curriculum support. This is something we didn't talk about today, but we do have a wide span of professional development partners that can help with, for example, the change management of moving your teachers from Windows or Mac to Chrome. But it's really customized and specific to your needs. So building out that professional development plan for your teachers wherever they are in their Chrome journey. And then last but not least, we want to help with the old stuff too. So if you've got a bunch of older devices, IT devices don't need to be client that you'd like to get off campus, we can help with that e-waste solution as well. So with that, I'm going to stop. Judy, Judy, Robert, thank you for hosting the call today, and thank you for supporting the chat. Just a quick check, Judy. It looks like we've done a good job answering all of everyone's questions real time. Any questions that more commonly popped into the chat, or any last thoughts from you?
Yeah, I think there's a few follow-up items that we'll be happy to share with the group, including a copy of your deck, Chris. Thank you so much for your time, Chris. We appreciate the guidance and the expertise that you have brought to the group. And of course, like I mentioned, we will be sure to share a copy of the recording as well of this session.
Perfect. Thank you, Judy. And thank you to all of you for spending the afternoon with us on this conversation. Hopefully you found it beneficial. And again, we look forward to future conversations as you continue to refresh all of your devices. So with that, thank you much. Have a great rest of the day, and hope to talk to everyone soon. Take care.
Cheers.